Okay. Why don't we begin? My guest today then is Gloria Murray. Um, Murray Associates is what I'd like to say, but actually part of Zenadin Group now, and has been for a few years, haven't you, Gloria?
Yeah.
And as I was just saying a moment ago, for any of you who joined us, Gloria's been part of AVN for many, many years, is incredibly passionate about making a profound difference to her clients through the advisory and the advice that she gives. She is known as the Queen of Profit. So please, in the chat box, give a welcome to Gloria. And Gloria, do you want to just start by giving us a little bit of background about yourself and your practice?
Yeah. So we're a fairly small practice based just outside of Glasgow Airport. And on cue, you might well hear an aeroplane overhead. um, so, because a lot of people say, you can't do advisory if you work with small clients, small business owners, or if you've got a small practice, but you can actually, there's only 5 of us in the practice, and we manage very, very well from that. Practice has been going for about 25 years. Uh,
Wow.
so quite a long time, and it's been a real roller coaster of a journey for me, and I say to clients as well, sometimes I love my business and other times I could see it far enough.
I mean, you just reminded me, I think it was the 2019 conference or possibly 2018 conference that you did a speaking slot for us on the fact that business is a roller coaster. And, you've just used those words again, and it is for everybody, I think, isn't it? And another point you've just said before I start to interview, obviously the theme of today is about advisory. And, for some people, advisory is a scare word. For other people, what does it mean exactly? It's not clear cut in terms of one specific service delivery, is it? And so I suppose really I'd be interested to understand from your point of view, what does advisory mean for you?
So advisory means to me just going above and beyond the numbers. I know you're going to ask me later on about kind of my journey, but I didn't become an accountant to study numbers and get really close to numbers. To me, the numbers are a means to an end. So, accounts tell a story. Sometimes it's a really bad story. Sometimes it's a really good story. Sometimes it's a case of it tells you a story about where a business could go, where a business owner could go. And so for me, I think advisory is just interpreting the numbers for the client. It might lead to business growth, and that's what I do with clients as well. Or it could be just so that they understand exactly what the numbers are telling them.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. So, why are you so passionate about really going above the basic compliance services? You just said you didn't become accountant just for the numbers; it was about helping. So, what's driving that?
I had my own business in the 1980s, which wasn't an accountancy business. And to me, I wanted more from my accountant than here's your accounts, that's how much tax you've got to pay, see you next year, or you're not making any money. I can see I'm not making any money. I know I'm not making any money, but give me a wee clue about what you think I could do, because to my mind then, that's what accountants were for. And I suppose in the early 1990s, I was very influenced by the troubleshooter, which a lot of the younger people on the call won't remember. But it was Sir John Harvey Jones, and he would go into family companies and help them turn around if they listened to him. And to me, that's I loved the fact that not only did he look at the numbers, but he also spoke to the people who were involved in the business, not just the board, but the actual people on the shop floor, if you like, to find out where the business could improve. And to me, that's what I wanted to be. And that was one of the reasons for me going into accountancy, was why do some businesses fail and why do some businesses succeed?
Brilliant, thank you. And I suppose my next question is about the. I obviously have lots and lots of conversations with lots and lots of accountants, and one of the common concerns about advisory over and above just producing the accounts is, who am I to be telling them how to run their business? I don't know anything about their business. Or maybe there's a massive confidence issue about even getting involved in that kind of conversation in the first place. How do you or how did you, as I dare say, confidence isn't an issue for you at all right now, but maybe it was at some point in your journey?
Absolutely, completely. Yes. I was a bag of nerves anytime I started to do it. Just being honest, because preparation was a real key to me, but the biggest key, obviously, as well, was the training from AVN. The training from AVN on the business advisory side is top class. So to me, that was where I learned so much, and it gave me the confidence to start putting little by little bits into speaking to a client. So when I first started off, I would have a accounts meeting, year-end meeting with the client, and use business potential with them. So I would use business potential with them. We could then get into conversation about, first off, where do you want to be in your business over the next year? So if they say they want to achieve, normally they're very focused on turnover, on sales. I try to bring it down to profit. Where do you want to be in terms of personally? And so I just started having conversations with clients about what their personal goals were, and then extrapolating that into their business using business potential. And then as I grew in confidence, I would start to offer it as one-to-one sessions. And again, I was doing these things for free to get it under my belt, and to feel more confident about it. And the one question I always prepared for was, you can't do that in my business. Because that was the one thing that I would hear from particularly business owners who had maybe been in business for 20 years. Oh, you can't do that. So what I would do is I would look to the outliers within their industry, and they say, well, you're saying you can't do that, but X, Y, and Z are doing it over there. So what makes you different from them? They're doing exactly what we're talking about. But also using the benchmarking tool from AVN as well is a great way of saying, well, you're saying you can't get your gross profit percentage above X. Well, there's several companies here within your local area that are doing that. And it just gives you the strength to then talk about it from their level. But certainly I try and find out as much as I possibly can about someone's business, so that I know more about their industry, and I know about the approximate gross profit percentages within that industry, etc., before I go and have a conversation with them. And also, more and more I specialise within specific areas. So I do a lot of hair and beauty, because I was a hairdresser myself many years ago, so I understand that industry, and I know the KPIs that are really important within there.
Brilliant. A couple of things just stemming from what you just said there. First of all, you said you ask them about their personal goals. What do they really want to get out of it? Do you ever find that some people are taken back and say, well, why are you asking me that? Or, anything like that? Maybe they feel that you're going beyond what they might expect from an accountant?
I've never had a reaction where someone has been negative about it, where they've said, that's none of your business. Never, ever. And I suppose that was one of my worries at the very start. But, if someone was to say that, and again, I prepared for that, if someone was to say that to me, I would say to them, very rarely do we wake up as small business owners and say, I really want to have 150 grand profit within my business by the end of next year, it's usually because you personally want something from it. You know, and it may be that you want a better lifestyle, you want a different house, you want a better car, you want to send your kids to a better school, or whatever it is. You know, that there's always something that's a driving force behind that profitability of the business. And so I try to tap into that and find out what that is, in order to help them to understand that you can't just say, well, I'd be quite happy with an extra couple of grand. Do you know, it's like, well, what actually, you know, if you let yourself dream, what is it you would actually love to have? Let's see if we can get you to some of that, if not all of it.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting that you mentioned hairdressers. A lot of people may dismiss hairdressers as feeling that they're too small, for example. But I mean, yeah, certainly a concern that people, and we're just about to move into maybe the ideal type of clients very shortly. But I know, again, many accountants feel that a client must be 500,000, a million, 2 million before they're going to be interested in advisory. Personally, I've never met anyone who wouldn't like to earn a little bit more and work a little bit less at the very least. Is that your experience as well?
Pretty much. You know, some people can't be bothered. I've got a client who's just sold his business, or sold the assets in his business, and he shouldn't have gone into business, and he's been in business for something like 5 years, and he took a perfectly good business and ruined it because he bought it from someone else. And the turnover's just gone down and down and down over the years. And no matter what I said to him, you know, no matter how much I tried to suggest that there was other things he could do in order to build the business back up, he just frankly wants to work for someone else. So those are the type of clients that you don't want to try and do business advisory with. The ones that are perfectly happy working for themselves, you know. And what I mean by that is, instead of them having a boss, they're their boss. They think they've got more freedom. But as I always said, when I became self-employed, I went from having a perfectly reasonable boss to working for a maniac who made me not take any holidays, work really long hours.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is a common response I get as well for a lot of people, you know, accountants included, saying, well, you know, I like working for myself. It gives me the flexibility, but they're perhaps still doing their 90 hours a week, but maybe they can start later in the morning if they want to, or whatever. But it's still a lot of hours and a lot of stress and pressure, isn't it? So, yeah. Okay. So going back to, again, those early stages, how did you decide which client or clients would have been right to approach, especially in those early days? You know, was there kind of a criteria or a gut feel?
Not really. You know, I started off with the clients that I got on really well with, the ones that I knew that did trust me. Because if you've got a client there who, you know, has always got lots of questions to ask because they're trying to catch you out on something, that's not really the client that you want to start off with when you're cutting your teeth in business advisory. You might do it later on as a bit of a challenge to kind of win them round. But you want to start off with the ones that you already know are friendly. You can let them know that it's a new service that you're starting off, and do they mind being a guinea pig, basically. And the caveat is that if they find it useful, they will give you a good testimonial, and you can write it up as a case study.
Yeah, exactly. You get some social proof for other people, can't you? So, I mean, so now then, are you very specific about the kinds of clients that you'll take on? Is it advisory only, or are you happy that maybe a proportion of your clients are advisory and the rest are bread and butter income?
Yeah, do you know, so I have got a team at Murray Associates who look after all the compliance side of things. We're happy to take on a client who wants purely compliance. Sometimes these compliance clients become advisory clients as well, because as they grow and sometimes the growth happens from a conversation that I'll have with them at their year end. They suddenly realise that actually they can do more with their business. And if I've got a client who is suddenly deciding that they want to take on bigger premises, I'll sit them down and say to them, have you thought this through? Have you got cash flow projections? And sometimes, it could just be meeting with a client to discuss their cash flow once a quarter. But again, from those conversations that you have with them about their cash flow, you're always looking to give them suggestions about areas of their business that they can improve on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, now I've obviously got lots of questions, but just by the way, now that some of those some more people are on here, if you've got any questions for Gloria throughout this, please feel free to pop them in the chat box, pop them in the Q&A. You're more than welcome to do that. I will have a look. I'll glance at them as they come in. Oh, we've got one already from Anthony. So, how did you introduce advisory fee? Well, actually, that was my very next question as it happens anyway. So perfect timing. Thank you for that, Anthony. So how did you introduce the advisory fees to your existing clients?
Well, it just came about by me offering it to clients. And before I'd offered it to clients, I already had the pricing structure in place. And I think it probably took me a good couple of years to get the pricing the way that I wanted it to be. But it's not something that I suddenly foisted on clients and said, "Oh, you're doing this." It's always been a choice, and laterally we've just developed it over the years, where I started to run mentoring groups for people who are not all clients, but there's a very good chance that if they come along to the mentoring group, they'll also become a compliance client as well. So we ran mentoring groups, and then during lockdown, eventually brought it online, and it took me a wee while to get my head around how I was actually going to do that. But found a way of doing it that worked, and that's what we've been doing, which means that it's not just people in the local area that I can offer the mentoring to. I can offer mentoring groups to people all over the UK.
Yeah, the beauty of the technology we're using right now, isn't it? Of course, it's just extended that reach massively. So there are some more questions coming in. I'm just going to ask a couple more in the meantime and let some of those mount up. But so how do you communicate that value of advisory to clients? Do you charge I'm going to assume that you charge using a very different strategy to the compliance services. So how do you communicate that value?
I suppose I was thinking about that the other day there, and I was thinking that a lot of it's to do with marketing. So you have to have your marketing right, and it's an unfortunate fact that most people are away to people. They want to avoid pain rather than they want to go towards pleasure. I'm a towards pleasure person, and so for many years my marketing was all about the pleasure of what you could get from being part of the mentoring group or being part of business advisory in terms of a better lifestyle, more holidays, etc. But probably now, as well as telling people about that, we tell people about the getting them away from the pain, because the real pains that you see with people with small businesses is cash flow. They've not got enough cash every month. They wonder if they're going to be able to pay the wages. Their team gets paid before they get paid. When the VAT comes around, they're wondering, can they pay the VAT, or are they going to have to rob Peter to pay Paul, move money around, the sleepless nights, the time that you're not spending with family. And as you know, Shane, they grow up very quickly.
Yeah.
I've got 5-year-old. So
Yeah, so I mean, what you've said there is the value of advisory isn't so much the numbers themselves, it's the impact they have on us emotionally, isn't it? It's
yes,
like you say, it's the pain, it's the worry, it's the what would we give to not to be able to sleep well at night, to not have to worry, or to be able to take the kids on those holidays, or put the kids through private education, or whatever it is that's important, isn't it? And it's going, like you say, the business is an enabler. It's a means to an end in itself. And I think it's what that's going to enable for them. And if they're not able to achieve that, or if they're worried about stuff, or in emotional pain about it, then actually, yeah, you can paint a very valuable picture about what advisory is.
yeah, and I think it's going back to AVN again. The changing lives. That's what we do as accountants. We have in the palm of our hands the ability to change our clients' lives. Not all of them, but even some of them. And I think that's such a valuable thing to be able to do, because when you see a client who is worrying about things, or is partially almost on the brink of bankruptcy or whatever, if you can pull them back from that and give them a lifeline and help them, or someone who's been limping along in business for a few years, and you help them to get out of that cycle so that they're actually thriving, it's just wonderful to see, no matter get paid for it as well.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I speak from personal point of view. The sense of fulfillment is something that money itself will never give you, is it? It's completely different. It is fantastic. Okay, so again, I will come on to the questions in a moment. In fact, actually, let me just do the one in the Q&A right now. So the question there is, how do you approach the conversation to shift from compliance to advisory? And one of the things you mentioned earlier, Gloria, is that you have your year-end accounts meetings with people, so presumably there's a transition there, so it'd be interesting to explore that more. But is that the one and only kind of opportunity that you have to talk about it, or are there other opportunities that you create?
No, there's other opportunities I create. So it might well be, if I know their client is having a hard time, then we'll offer to do cash flow projections for them, and have a little chat with them. And if you help a client out of a bit of a hard time like that, I do it because I want to help, but it's a great way of then saying to them, listen, you really need to have these regular meetings. And there's a very good chance that they'll say yes. If you've got a very small client who's just become VAT registered, again, it's a very good time to step in and say to them, let's look at doing some meetings and cash flow projections with you for the next 6 months to a year, just to help you transition from this very scary period of becoming VAT registered. And so they're a tiny client, but again, a lot of the times they will say yes to this. And if not, at least you've put that into their mind and they know that you offer that as a service. Because I think part of the thing that accountants are very good at is hiding their light under a bushel, and not telling your clients and even your potential clients what it is that you do or could do for them. So even if it's just, we'll send emails around to clients, and it might be about certain topics. And again, we use the same type of things for social media as well. And most of the time, it's just an email or a post on social media on a specific, maybe business advisory topic. And every so often, we'll just remind them that we do that, and that we're starting a new mentoring group or something like that. And we also run webinars.
Mm. And so in your, again, just going back to the specific one in the Q&A, you're having a year-end accounts meeting, you're going through the accounts. Is it as simple as just asking the client, are you happy with these numbers, or do you feel that it should be better, or do you have different kinds of questions up your sleeve?
Well, basically, I would rather than say, are you happy with these numbers? I would probably say to them, so what are your plans for the next year? And they might say, oh, I want to expand, I want to open a new branch here, blah, blah. You say, well, that's all well and good, but what do you want out of the business in the next year? And trying to get that conversation round to what they personally want, so that we can then work out how much profit do you need to fulfill these new lifestyle changes, and how does that actually translate into turnover? So, and again, I'll use business potential for that. So I can say to them, right, well, if you want to do that, if you increase your prices by X%, get X% of new clients in, build up your retention rate or whatever of the customers that you've already got, then you can easily achieve that, or you can't. And sometimes the conversation is, listen, there's no way in God's earth you can achieve that with this business. So you need to look at changing your business model. And that can be a hard conversation to have, but I think it's better to be honest with clients when you're having that type of conversation, rather than saying to them, oh yeah, you can do this.
Yeah, I get that. So, how do you kind of? By the way, I think we've answered your question, Besco, in that one. You asked it just about this time. Let me just come up with a different question. So, in fact, it's gone now because I spotted another one to come up. All right, I'll ask my next question then that's on my list instead, since my mind's just got instantly blank. Would you say that you value price your services when it comes to advisory, or do you kind of have a set across the board no matter what size business they are? How would you kind of do that so that you're not undervaluing the advice that you give?
Well, it's a set price across the boards that we charge no matter what size the business is. And I've done a lot of training with other people on various other topics, and I could see that, and mainly, it's business things, and I could see that the way that they approached it was nothing to do with the size of a business, and of course, why should it be? They would get people who were really keen, that wanted to use them for whatever it was they were offering, because they felt that they wanted to do it. These people would go and use credit cards or bank loans or whatever to get these services. And I realised that actually what I did got better results than a lot of these people would get through going through these other people. And so I suddenly realised that actually I was doing people a disservice by not talking about it a lot more. Seeing these people get into debt or whatever to go and do something that I knew they would never get anything from. And we've all seen it, we all got the likes of action coaches, and I'm not denigrating action coaches at all, but like anything, some are better than others. And I've seen clients go to action coaches because they didn't know that I offered that service, and they paid a lot of money and got fined for not doing things, and nothing ever came of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. Let me just, the question I was going to ask you next actually is a little bit further down on my list, so I'll get to that in a moment. Now, forgive me, I don't know whether it's Rayo or Rayo Khan, but you've asked, and I appreciate your very nice comments about AVN Gloria. I'm really grateful for that. But the question from here is, what software tools do you use to support you with advisory work? Now, I know you've mentioned some AVN tools, but are there others in addition to that you may be aware of?
It's AVN tools that I use for the business advisory, and I know there's a lot of other tools out there, but I haven't found one that really suits me as yet. So I'll continue looking, and with the advent of AI, There's lots of stuff coming around the corner that are going to be really great for us as accountants to use. So I'm just waiting to see what comes out next.
Yes, it's very exciting seeing all this AI. It's worrying and exciting, I think, at the same time. Okay, so look, my next question for you was actually dealing with different industries. Obviously, you're an accountant. Your skills are in accountancy. How do you cope with maybe different types of industries? You just mentioned that your advice to one person was that they have to change their business model. Presumably, that's down to the numbers. But how do you handle sort of industry-specific questions or those types of things?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I will make sure that I know exactly what they're asking me, because sometimes you hear a question, you go, I've not got a clue. They're asking me about EAPs. So it's a jargon thing sometimes, just get some more information from them. What exactly are you talking about? So that you understand what it is that they're doing. And I really think that as accountants, we're really good at problem solving. So there's only so many problems. Obviously, if it's an engineering problem, that's not something that we can solve. We may need to say to them, you need to speak to an expert about this. If you're having a problem with something that's happening in your warehouse, I can't come in and solve that for you, but there's experts out there. Go and talk to them. It's sometimes, so we're like GPs, we signposts sometimes to other people. If it's something that I can't answer there and then, I'll just be honest and say, off the top of my head, I don't know that answer. And as I get older, that happens more and more. I don't know the answer. Tax, accountancy. I've got to ask my team. But, so if you're honest and you just say, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I'll see what I can find out for you. And it might be that you then look at the problem and decide that it's not something that you can help them with.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that I like the GP analogy as well, because, it is on a general level. And let's face it, to some degree, if it's the product making industry, there's going to be generic type of stuff across that. Likewise with service industry, logistics industry, and then as you filter down, there's going to be very specific stuff. But what you're doing, you're not trying to be all things to all people. You've kind of got this area, your remit, isn't it? And not being afraid to say, look, that's something that you're going to have to seek expert advice on. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, is there?
Yeah. So I see myself as their financial director. You wouldn't ask me to solve an operational problem if we were in a bigger business. You would come to me with issues that are surrounding pricing or gross profit percentage or saving some money somewhere, so we can't answer every single question. And in the same way that no one who's a business coach or business advisor can answer every single question.
Exactly, yeah. I think it is generally a worry, isn't it, being asked a question that you can't answer, but I think you've just got to accept that that's always going to be the case, and not easy to say, isn't it? But not worry about that and accept that it's outside of your jurisdiction. That. So, okay. Do you have any kind of example case studies where you've helped somebody in an advisory fashion and maybe turn their business around in some way?
Yep. I had a client who has wax salons, wax bars, as she calls them, and over a 7 month period of working with her, I helped her to increase her sales by £250,000.
Wow.
So sales is great enough, but it did manage to stick to profitability as well, a lot of it. And she managed to do the things that she had dreamed of. She wanted to be able to take her family away on holidays. She wanted to be able to drop her hours down. In the middle of this process, she had a baby. And she still managed, because she'd got her team to the stage where they could manage without her being there on a day-to-day basis. So that's one. Another one is to business owners in a beauty salon. who had been limping along for years, and again helped them to grow their business. They were part of the mentoring group. To be honest with you, they did very little when they were part of the mentoring group. So this happens. When it came towards the end of the mentoring group, I said to them, you know, you've done nothing with these 2 years that we've been together. So if you do want to continue working together, you really have to pull your finger out and do something. So they agreed that they would do that, and within a year they'd doubled the amount that they could take out of the business. And bearing in mind, before this, their team were getting paid more than they were on a month-to-month basis. And it's now got to the stage where one of the business owners has just last year started IVF because she can afford to pay for it, and she can afford now to take the time out of the business when she hopefully does get pregnant.
Brilliant. I love that story. That's fantastic. Yeah, and again, that just goes back to the difference that you can make, isn't it? You know, you've played a part in enabling that to happen, which is brilliant. So yeah, well done to you. So how does this affect you personally? How do you feel that you've personally developed over the time that you've been delivering this kind of service to clients?
Well, my confidence has grown massively, because at the very start, you know, and one of the things that I knew that I had to do as well was I knew that if I really wanted to make a go of the business advisory side of things, that I had to be seen as an expert. So one of the ways to do that is to get out public speaking. Doesn't have to be events that you run yourselves, but just actually getting out and speaking to people. You know, there's probably quite a lot of business groups around your area that are constantly looking for speakers, and they'll be very happy for you to come and speak about a topic. So that was one of the things that I did. And I know, Shane, when you first started public speaking, you were slightly shy.
Very shy, awful, yeah. I absolutely love it now, but yeah, it's
So it's one of these things, you know, I am not a natural public speaker. Jerry, my partner, you can't stop him talking. He's on today, so I can't see him, but but he can talk for Scotland, England, and Wales. But me, I am not. But I think sometimes that helps because I'm not verbose. You know, I don't tend to take half an hour to say something that could take 2 minutes. I prefer to just say it in 2 minutes. If I was Yorkshire, I'd be Yorkshire.
Brilliant. I mean, you've just mentioned the public speaking. What are the other avenues as well? I mean, have you been involved in, let's say, being a guest on podcasts or other people's YouTube channels or creating your own YouTube channels? You know, what are the areas? And there's not a one-size-fits-all approach, that I suppose is the point I'm making, but what are the kinds of avenues that you've explored or channels that you use?
So I've run webinars quite a few times for Forest, which is a specialist software for the hair and beauty industry, and that really helps to position yourself as an expert. So I would suggest that if there's a specific industry that you know you really feel comfortable working within, then just see if you can get on to podcasts or webinars or whatever to speak about topics that they will find of interest. Do you know, and sometimes if you just start speaking to them, they may not initially know what topics, but they will come back with topics, and particularly if you can suggest things. For me, pricing was a big thing that I found it very easy to get into a lot of in front of business owners, whether that was beauty salons or anywhere else, was to talk about pricing, because it's one of the main areas that I notice small business owners tend to get wrong. And it's not they're charging too much, they're just not charging enough. and it makes their business very hard to sustain. Sometimes they're comparing themselves to other people who have got completely different business models or don't pay any tax. Let's not put too much a point on that, but it's if they're comparing themselves to other people who might not be VAT registered when they should be, or paying tax and putting money in their pocket, you can't compete with that, and you shouldn't try to.
Yeah, exactly. The ones that prefer to be paid in cash. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So how do you see the role of accountancy evolving in the future?
It's already evolved quite a lot over the past 25 years, but again, AI is going to mean that if you want to just do pure compliance work, I think there's going to be a real squeeze in terms of pricing on that. Particularly, as more younger people come into business, younger people don't tend to be so fussed about meeting face to face. They're much happier to do things online. So if you're only offering compliance and you're doing it online, then that's great. I think AI will be able to take a lot of the work away from there. If it's compliant, if it's advisory work that you're looking to do, I think that's where we can add the real value as accountants. And I think, again, AI will be invaluable for helping us with that, to take the grunt work out of it so that we can actually spend more time on the interpretation that we put as people and talking to another person face to face or online, the difference that can have and relating to them. Because I think sometimes, particularly very small business owners, they think that there's a us and them type thing, and they don't understand that we're just business people just like them, and so you can't get that over with an AI model. But as an individual, that's something that you can empathise with people and help them with where they are, and that's the real thing that I think is going to develop more and more.
That's it. I mean, I often use the expression human to human, but you just used the word empathy, and it is about being able to empathise with people, isn't it? That is that human connection that currently, at least, differs from the AI side of it. Okay, so what advice would you give to the people listening right now, if they're considering maybe moving more into advisory, but they're a little bit apprehensive about it?
GFDI. And I know it's easy to say, and I'm not meaning to be glib about it, because I found it very hard. I'm not going to say that it was easy for me, but I had a real drive, because the driver for me is always when I first started at my accountancy practice, seeing a lot of small business owners that were making very little money. And I've spoken to people in charities about this as well, because they talk about the people in the poverty of people in work, but there's this real hidden poverty among people who work for themselves that you just don't see unless you're an accountant, and I came across that, people who worked for themselves but really weren't making much money, and it was maybe circumstances, because it could give them that flexibility in terms of when they started and when they finished work, because they might have children or elderly relatives to look after or whatever. But it's sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
So it's all good. Yeah, I think you answered it fine. So there's one final question from me, and then I'm just going to look at the chat box and the Q&A. I think there's a couple more coming in. But my last question is, And this was actually a response I had from somebody just a few days ago. Actually, this is, I'm already snowed under. I'm already working so many hours just doing the compliance work. I'm not sure how I could fit the advisory in. Now, obviously, I gave my response, but what would your response be to that?
You have to have other people to do the compliance work. There's no way I could do all the compliance work myself and do the business advisory. It's just I've got people there that I can trust to go ahead and do it. I know that it's our business, it's our baby, and it can sometimes be hard to let go. But you just start letting go of little bits at a time until you feel confident with the people that are doing the work. I still review quite a lot of the work. There's certain things that I don't have to review anymore, but it's building that team there, making sure that you've got the processes in place as well, because if you've got processes in place then, and you know that your team are following those processes, it makes it a lot easier for you to know where people are at with what they're doing, having team meetings as well to keep on top of it. But there's absolutely no way that you can do it all. It's got to be a case of, right, these are the hours I'm going to do compliance, and these are the hours that I'm going to spend on advisory.
Yeah, I think you've got to have that kind of approach. Yeah, I agree. So let me just have a quick look. So a question from Ola. So how do you charge an existing client for advisory services when they call you to ask a question outside of the compliance service you provide to them?
I'm in a meeting. So my team always take, if a client phones me up at any time, my team say, I'm in a meeting, can they take a message, or is there anything they can help with? So they then get a message, find out what it is about, and I'll have a conversation with them and say, because you get it all the time, you'll get emails, and I had one just on Monday, just got a wee question for you. I was like, that's not a wee question. It opens up a can of worms. There's so many other things you have to think about. So if it's something that I can that someone in the team or can answer off the top of our heads, and it's not a complicated issue, then we will answer it, because it's built in as part of our service that clients can call up anytime with any queries. If it's something that we have to go and do some work on, so for example, if they're thinking about selling a flat and they want to know what the capital gains tax implications are, then there'll be a charge for that. So it'll cost X amount. Do you want us to go ahead? And again, you're just kind of pointing out to the client that they think it's a little question. They don't understand the complexities around it. It's up to us to educate the clients with how complex tax or accountancy is, so that we can make sure that they're paying us for what they want. And again, got a client who doesn't phone me up, but phones other members of the team up because she has a problem with QuickBooks. Again, QuickBooks is something that we give people as part of the package, and you get 2 hours free training with that. She didn't take that up. So individuals in the team have spent 2 hours with her helping. And then after that, it's a case of you need training, and that this is how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. A couple more questions have come in as well. And by the way, if you've posted a question, I've missed it, please do either repost it or give me a nudge. But does Gloria use spreadsheets for cash flow projections, or is there software that Gloria has found beneficial?
To be honest, I haven't. I've tried different software, and I haven't found it to be beneficial. So we use spreadsheets, and one of the main reasons why we use spreadsheets, because it allows me to do a rolling forecast. So I keep what we projected last month, put in what happened in that last month, and then roll that into the following months, so that someone can see we thought you were going to do X amount of sales, but your sales were down by quite a large margin on that, which means that in 3 months, 4 months' time, it could have an effect on your cash flow when your corporation tax is going out or your VAT is going out or whatever, just to get clients to think about it. And that usually helps to keep them on track. So that's why I've never found software that works. Sage Financial Forecasting used to be fantastic for when you were setting up projections, and particularly for taking it through to the profit and loss and balance sheet, but they got rid of it, and I've not been able to find anything that's as good.
Brilliant. Okay, so far the last question that I've got on here, and we are only about 5 minutes left as well. This is from Symphorian. I love that name. Sometimes, on occasion, or several instances, clients want us to meet at their offices, and it's possible to spend a lot of time dealing with negative issues, etc. And actually, the client does not offer the intended assignment. So is it, I suppose really the question is, would you visit clients at their offices, or would you insist that they come to yours instead?
It depends. I do like to see clients at their offices sometimes, because particularly if it's a client whose business premises I haven't been to before, gives me a really good idea of just what's happening. But I used to visit clients all the time, and then I realised that not only was it taking quite a lot of time out of my day to do that, but also clients, because they feel very comfortable in their own environment, get interrupted all the time, and you spend half the meeting would gone twice as long as it should do, because they were dragged away to do something for 10 minutes, or I just have to take this phone call. Doesn't happen if they come to your office. So I wouldn't say you've got to come to my office. You just say, I've got lots of meetings on, so it's going to be 6 weeks before I can meet with you, because I've got to take X amount of time out to come visit you, and I know the meeting takes longer because you tend to get interrupted, and just be a bit more precious about your time. But when I started the practice, clients would phone up and speak to me, and I'd be the one that would be answering the phone. You end up that you don't get a lot of work done because you're fielding queries and you're speaking to clients. And it's great to take the time out to speak to clients. I'm not saying don't speak to them, but speak to them on your own terms. So block out time where you might make 5 phone calls in a row rather than sporadically taking phone calls throughout the day. Then what you're going to be talking to someone about, and you can prepare for it, because there's nothing worse than a client phoning you up and saying, what's the latest piece of legislation on VAT for this, that, or the other? I don't bleeding know. I need to go and have a look. So do it on your own terms.
Yeah, I'm going to say I would personally say I've got exactly 1 hour or 90 minutes that I can spend with you. Here's an agenda of the stuff that we must cover, or something like that as well, just to really just to make sure that goes to plan. Brilliant. Well, I don't think any more questions have come in. Gloria, if I can just first of all say thank you very much, and if I can ask the people on this webinar also just to say thank you in the chat box. Really appreciate the information that you've shared, the honesty as well. I think it's been fantastic, and well done to you. You're making a profound difference to the businesses that you're working with, and you are an absolute inspiration. So thank you very much.
And all I've got to say is thank you, Shane, for for my latest award. I was very chuffed.
Yes, you won that for your business advisory impact that you have, and well deserved too. So thank you very much. Lots of thanks in the chat box as well. I will bid you all a fantastic day and rest of week, and all the best, everybody. Good luck with the tax returns, those of you who are still snowed under with them.
Bye.
Everybody, bye-bye.